Internet, it's Finn again from the Horror Tap. We have another video for you today. This time we're talking about a story that we've been covering over on the podcast for a number of months now, actually. Well, pretty much since the start of the pandemic, and that is the slow and sad death of cinema. Womp womp. So this started back with the release of The Invisible Man, and I remember when the trailer came out, we were talking about that on the show. It was like, actually, that looks not bad considering Universal's track record with their, the whole reboot of the monster movie thing. We did a whole episode on it anyway. So we're kind of excited for that, and then during the press tour for The Invisible Man, people were asking like, oh, is this actually gonna, hopefully it's going to be in cinemas, but it might not be because of this looming coronavirus thing. And it turns out they were right, and it was released to streaming. And it was re-streaming, and it actually did pretty well. It is a good film. I was pleasantly surprised by that. Well done. So it's released to streaming, and it does quite well. The film that kind of changed it, though, was actually a kids' film, which I haven't seen. It's called Trolls 2, Trolls World Tour, Trolls Gone Wild. I don't know. Anyway, this was released in a handful of cinemas over in the States and a handful of like drive-in theaters, but it was also simultaneously released video on demand to streaming services. And it made quite a bit of money. It had a really strong opening weekend. I think on video on demand alone, it's made something like $77 million so far, which is pretty good numbers. So then Universal Studios looked at this and they were like, hey, we've made money and we didn't actually have to put this in the cinema. So they announced that even when this pandemic is over and everything's back to normal, they will simultaneously release new films on demand to your TV and in the cinema. Now this has a few issues. The first one being piracy. As Lee, my co-host on the show, pointed out, as soon as something is available digitally, it can be pirated and will be available online to be watched illegally for free, which is true. So you can go and watch The Invisible Man right now, or Trolls 2, online for free, in pretty good quality version. It no longer is it, the guy sneaking a video camera into a cinema. We don't have that anymore because these films never went to the cinema. So we can actually illegally watch these new films in pretty good quality. So with Universal announcing that they're gonna release films simultaneously in the cinema and on demand, cinema companies started completely freaking out. So Odeon and Cineworld, who I believe are like the two biggest cinema chains here in the UK, and AMC over in America, completely threw their toys out of the pram, essentially said, oh, well, that's it, fine. We're not ever gonna show any Universal films ever, if that's what you're gonna do. Bold move. The thing is, the cinemas don't really have a leg to stand on. For years now, cinemas have been in a pretty desperate situation, and that's thanks mainly to the movie studios. The studios have all the money, all of the power, and have had cinemas over a barrel for years now. They will charge them ridiculous amounts of money to show their films. That's why the price of a cinema ticket is so much these days. That's why popcorn costs so much. That's why most cinemas have bars in them now, trying to make money. They are treading water and have been for a long time. So now isn't really the time to be making enemies. Also, from what I understand, studios have been trying to do this for years. They've always wanted to do this, just have it straight into the home. These big studios, they don't actually care about like the films or the art. It's just about money. They see cinemas essentially as a middleman who's stopping them from making money faster. The only thing that's really been stopping cinemas from doing this in the past is the talent, directors and actors, and they make these films and they want them to be shown on the big screen. That's what they make them for. That, and they didn't have an excuse of a global pandemic shutting down all the cinemas. It was then announced that Tom Hanks' new film, Greyhound, which was set to be a pretty big deal, it's Tom Hanks, he's a big star, it's probably gonna make a lot of money, has been purchased by Apple TV. So that will not be going to cinemas at all. That is just going straight to streaming. You will not see that in a theatre. Some films that are still scheduled to be released in cinemas have just been pushed back are the Saw reboot, Spiral, for Chris Rock, A Quiet Place 2, and Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Tenet, Christopher Nolan's new film, has actually been pushed back a number of times already and is currently scheduled to be released over here on the 12th of August in cinemas. This is a huge gamble for, I believe it's Warner Brothers. This film costs something like $205 million to make. It's a massive gamble. Are people going to want to go back into cinemas after all of this? After you want to, sit in a room with 200 strangers wearing a mask, are people actually going to want to do that? We'll find out. It's a massive gamble, and it could be the film that decides the fate of the cinema industry for the next few years at least. Basically, it's just all kind of sad, really. Like, I love going to the cinema. I love seeing films on the big screen, but it is a dying industry. It has been for years now, and unless they do something smart and quickly, in the next decade, it's going to go the same way as Blockbuster. I guarantee it. The silver lining in this, though, is that drive-in theatres are supposedly having a bit of resurgence at the moment, because it's a way that you can go and see a film on the big screen in the safety of your own car, plus you haven't got to sit next to a bunch of strangers eating disgusting food. And I think that could become like a niche thing. It'll be like people that still collect vinyl records nowadays. That's what I think that could become. So in conclusion, I think it's inevitable. I think the studios are being kind of shitty. I think the cinemas just, they haven't got a leg to stand on. It's like I said, now is not the time to be making enemies. We'll see what's happened. Anyway, if you've got any thoughts on this, put them in the comments, and like and subscribe and share and all that, and be sure to check out the show. Ciao.